Hello, everybody. It's Larry Johnson, your host for A Principal's Voices. And I have a really good show for you today. It's an individual that has a very interesting, if not unusual, story. It caught my interest, and he's using that story to help other people, as we like to talk about. And so I'm going to let him tell you most of this, but his name is Bryce Hanson. And yes, he's as young as he looks. He's 25 years old. And that says a lot for someone that age. And if you're on the video feed, you're looking at some musical stuff in the background, and he is a musician. So, oh, I'm gonna, oh, almost. Anyway, so without further ado, Bryce, welcome to the
Yep.
show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Larry. I really appreciate the opportunity, the platform to speak. Yeah, looking forward to delving into everything. Appreciate it.
So you're in Dana Point, California, and
Yes,
but you grew up close by, correct?
yeah, I was born and raised in San Clemente, nice little beach town next to Dana Point. Dana Point's also a beach town. Yeah, I like to stay close to the ocean. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I feel like it's the best place in the world. Like I don't do a lot of traveling, but when I do, I'm just instantly humbled. I'm like, wow, we got something amazing down here, and truly, truly blessed.
Okay. Well, if it makes you feel any better, you have that classic California Beach Boy look. Okay. So
Yeah, that's what I was going for.
you have a look. So, so tell me a little bit about you were born there, and I know that you were born with a disability, one I'd never heard of before. Not that I've heard a lot, and then that has led you to your career working with children in music. So, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so back in the day, how we first found out I was disabled, uh I was in gym class mainly, I want to say around fourth, fifth grade. We had to run the mile in school. And I would always finish last by even double amount of time as the kid before me. And eventually the gym teacher's like, "Hey, Bryce, what's going on? Why we, not like well, she could tell there was something different with my walk. It wasn't as aggressive back then. It's a degenerative progressive neurological disease, so it gets worse as I get older. But yeah, we went and saw a doctor. Doctor took a look at my feet. I have extremely high arches in my feet, so he
Hmm.
had the idea that I have this disease, Charcot-Marie tooth. Eventually, I got recommended to a specialist from my primary care doctor, who diagnosed me at 11. Then he recommended I get a surgery for my condition. So what they did is they rearranged the longest digitorum tendon. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, even though I've said it a million times. But yeah, so they rearranged it from the inner part of my foot around to the outside, and they drilled a hole straight through my foot and stuck the tendon in there. I remember waking up after the surgery to the doctor who's telling me, yeah, you got to start physical therapy effective immediately. I'm 12 years old at this point, and I hop out of the bed and my legs instantly collapse, and I had to completely retrain myself how to walk at 12, two big old blue casts on my feet. Yeah, it was terrifying. I was like, whoa, this is not what I expected at all. I was a silly kid. I was like, yeah, no, yeah, let's do surgery. Cool. Why not? And then yeah,
So, uh, now has this intervention solved your problem, or at least stopped the progression?
so uh, it was the surgery was supposed to prevent my feet from like caving inwards and increasing the arches, from them, continually scaling up. But I just felt like it was all downhill after the surgery. Like it was really the disability really shown right after because I had to reteach myself how to walk. It was totally a whole different experience. I remember football was my favorite thing in the world growing up as a kid. So
No.
yeah, every day at lunch, school, me and all the buddies would go around. We play some football. And after the surgery, it was fun. I had my two blue casts on. I was like, I finally was able to walk after a few weeks. And once again, I'm a 12-year-old kid. I'm like, all right, let's get into football. Still two big old blue casts on my feet. I can walk. Yeah, let's have some fun. I'm sick of sitting at lunch alone and all this. So, yeah, get out on the field. All the friends, they're super excited to see me. They're like, all right, let's go. Let's get some football going. They picked me first, which was sweet of them. It was very nice. It was a good experience. Very first play, they left me wide open because, of course, I I have two big old blue casts, why guard that guy? Well, yeah, ran it back home for a touchdown. It was hmm, top of the world right there. And then eventually the supervisor came up and was blowing her little whistle. And I knew exactly she was going to kick me off and everything. And she's like, "Are you serious?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm serious. Yeah, we're having some fun." And she's like, "You can't be playing football." I look at that. I'm like, "Did you not just see me score a touchdown?" She's she didn't think that was funny.
Of course not. Of course she wouldn't think you were funny.
Yeah. No,
Well,
yeah. And then she kicked me off the field. I was always persistent, tried to sneak back on, but yeah, eventually she had to resort to saying none of my friends would be able to play football if they kept letting me play. So
okay.
yeah, that was the last time I stepped foot on the field. Felt very isolated from the school system. Sat at lunch alone mainly, tried to make new friends, but yeah, it was definitely a weird point in my life. Right there. I tried to get into music as a kid.
Hmm.
So I joined the band class. They tried to teach me clip. So my condition is not just my feet, it's also my hands. So my thumbs, they don't move in a circle. That's my full range of motion on my thumb,
Oh,
just a
wow.
little bit up and down, and then the rest of my finger. Yeah, it's very difficult to open up Ziploc bags and like little things like that, but gripping like a barbell, I could do, but it's just very specific. Little emotions with my hands is difficult. But I want to learn clarinet, so I gave it a go in music class. The instructor it's not his fault. He's one instructor for a class of 36, teaching a series of six different instruments in a 45-minute time increment.
That's a
So I never
big
got the
class.
proper, yeah,
That is a big
36 keys
class. Even if
learning.
it were even if it were one instrument, it would be a big
Yeah.
class.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, that's the point, I always try to hit, he didn't have I didn't have like that one-on-one experience with the instructor. So, have him help me out in the ways that I needed, adjust my hands, placement. So I didn't really learn anything in the class, at the end of the year, I just basically faked it, I just like was pretending like I was playing stuff and, uh,
Well, if you're one of 36, you could probably blend in with the group.
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was probably like 9 or 10 more clarinets, so I could just, not blow, act like I'm blowing, and just press the keys down, and just be like, "Oh yeah, look at Bryce, he's shredding." But yeah, that was my first introduction to music. Yeah, sorry if I'm rambling on a little bit. We can take the story one piece at a time. Do you have any questions or
Yeah,
anything so
go
far?
ahead.
Okay, so eventually getting into music. I believe I was like 13 or 14. My mom tried to introduce me to guitar through a private hired gun instructor.
Hmm.
Uh, so this was one on one, but after one session, he was telling me, "No, you can't play guitar. Just the way you're holding it and everything. Is not a good fit." And it
And
blows
yet, I
my
see
mind.
guitars in your background there on the wall. So
Oh
you
yeah,
must have been it later.
yeah, no, I'm actually in the school right now. So yeah, there's, a bunch of lessons going on right now. I always like to do all the meetings here. It's fun, it's
Hmm.
people get a taste, but yeah, it's good. But yeah, the guitar instructor's like, "Nope, nope, not possible, give up in a nice way." Which is, I mean, if you're being hired to do anything and your first instruction is give up, you can't do it. You're going to make negative agreements with yourself and believe in yourself that you can't do it, especially growing up as a
Hmm.
kid. Someone says this is impossible, you can't do this, you're gonna grow up into your later years thinking, oh well, why even try? And so
Hmm.
yeah, lots
Well,
of
and that's most people. Now, there are people who will say the reaction would be, "Oh, I'm going to show you." You
yes,
know,
no,
and
yeah.
so you must have been one of those people. I'll show you.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, myself, I mean, growing up, I had a lot of anxiety and depression, isolated by the school, believing in, negative agreements. I can't do this, I can't do that because of my disability, letting it define me instead of conquering it. Eventually, my dad, uh, I was, in the midst of my depression, playing games, doing nothing with. Uh, my dad bought a big grand piano from a garage sale, and I don't know why he did that. Seemed like the most silly purchase ever. We don't play instruments. He doesn't want to play instruments. He just bought it because I don't know, he got sold on it or something. But it was a great thing because I just woke up one day, popped out my door, and just looked in the living room like, why is there a piano in the house? This is strange. No one's even home. He just dropped it off and went off to do his thing. So I started playing it. Sat down at the bench, looked at the keys, eventually mustered up the courage to press one of the keys, felt the vibration resonate through my bones. And it was something, magical. And there was no one around, which was the big thing. There was no one telling me right, wrong, you can't do this, you can't do this, whatever. It was just me and the piano. Eventually, I started just playing it, figuring out which keys sound good together and which ones to avoid over and over again, playing the simplest melodies. It felt like there was no regrets of the past, no anxiety of the future, a blissful state of presence, the here and now. Eventually I got stuck, which leads me to the music school where the uprising, the journey starts. The piano was sort of the turning point, the very bottom, and I was able to go up. So I reached out to the music school. They set me up with this instructor, Cy Sharp, hilarious guy, super funny, best pianist I've ever met. I sort of showed him what I was doing, and he's telling me like, "Oh yeah, this is good." Instead of saying you can't do this, he's like, "Why don't we work on a program? Why don't we work on finger positions that work for you, and help you improve from there? Figure out what you can't do and what you figure out what we can't do." Instead of saying no. It was great. Eventually, I got a job at the music school editing videos for them. A week later, I was Dan the man. He was telling me I need someone to run the store this Sunday. Can you do it? And I was like, yeah, let's give it a go. So no training at all. He puts me in at the store. I still don't know a lot about music at this time, so people are coming in. No one's there to supervise me. People are like, "Oh, can you tell me a little bit about this guitar?" And I'm slightly sarcastic and try to be fun. I'm like, "Oh, it's brown." And they thought it was funny. They're like, "Oh, that's pretty good. I like that." Yeah, it looks like it's a Fender. It's got five, no, six strings on it, and just talking to people, sold a bunch of stuff. And Dan's like, "Whoa, how'd you do that?" And I was like, "I was just, talking to people, figuring it out with them." Um, Eventually it led into a few days, which upgraded into, just full-time position Monday through Friday. And yeah, eventually a family came in to the school inquiring about bass lessons for their son. The mother was unsure of her son's capabilities on playing bass because he had a disability similar to mine. And I was telling him, like, no, it's possible, don't give him that negative agreement, whatever it is, I'll set him up with an instructor who will tailor the lesson specifically to his needs, and however we need to do it, we'll do it. They didn't have the financial means for private lessons and were still unsure. Eventually, the idea dawned on me. How do I provide music lessons to kids in need, families who can't afford it? How do
Hmm.
I prove to the mother that her son can play the bass? How do I show the world that arts are for all? Which is the nonprofit that I started back in 2022. Arts for
So
All.
you're 3 years into this nonprofit experience.
Yes, 3 years in October.
So it's called Arts for All.
Arts for All, yes.
And it really came about because this woman brought her son there, and you saw yourself sitting there really in a younger age. And oh, okay, how do I provide for someone whose means doesn't allow access to what they really need? That's what you're telling me. And so, was that your
Yeah, absolutely.
idea? Was that someone gave you the idea, or just totally on your own?
Yeah, no, it was my idea. I talked a little bit about Dan, and Dan's telling me, about how a few other music schools have tried to dabble into it, but no one's really committed to it. It's just it's a lot of work. I thought, oh no, this is gonna be simple. This is gonna be easy. It's the first thing I really built, you know. And so yeah, started, got the 501(c)(3), thought I was going to raise millions and millions of dollars, my first couple years, sharing stories, writing grants, doing all this. Yeah, instantly humbled. Was, and luckily I'm young, so I've got a little bit of time on my hand, and it's great because I get to work on it at the school as well as after, plan events, do all sorts of fun stuff, and it's a very rewarding business is the big part.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I'm passionate about. I mean, I always tell, it's like try to find something that you hate about teaching kids music. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be
So
hard.
then,
You're gonna
so
be
you're
super cynical.
So you're running this thing, but you're also providing some of the instruction. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, so I will teach piano lessons here and there. I mainly operations, managing the school, managing the nonprofit. Also have a chess camp, a chess club, and we just started a live television show podcast where we have a full camera crew come down in
So,
Stillwater.
but it's the nonprofit that's under. It's this aid to children that need help with their music lessons. That's the nonprofit,
That's
and
the
then
nonprofit side.
and you still work for the music academy and the music
Yeah.
store, and then now you have the camp. The camp is for profit as well.
Chess camp, that's just something I started. I grew up, my grandpa taught me how to play chess the hard way. This is not music at all. It's just a fun little thing I'm passionate about.
All right.
Yeah, I'm
So, do you think that's going to
that.
continue, or I mean, where do you see this going? I mean, you got a lot going on, a lot of moving parts here.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I see everything going up up only because I don't like losing progress. I always love scaling, continuing and finding whatever it is that needs to be done to get done. The nonprofit side, it's very grassroots. We do a ton of events, ton of fun little fundraising projects. Like I was saying, the podcast, television show, we call it Taco Tuesday Live. It's a show at Stillwater connected to our building, a big old restaurant with a big old stage. We have singer-songwriters come down and do an open mic style with performance. We have our kids come and perform as well as we fundraise at the event weekly. That's been going great. In April, we raised $2,000 just strictly off of doing these little Taco Tuesday events, just saying, hey, this is our mission. This is what we're doing. If you'd like to make a donation, let's do it. And then finding fun little creative ways to
Mhm.
incentivize people to donate. Connecting with the donors is definitely massive, making sure everyone knows, um, you're joining our family. We're building a little community here. If you want to be a part of it, absolutely. If not, it's all good. You're not going to find someone who hates music donating to Arts for All. It's building a family with,
Um,
good people. Yeah.
well, let me give you a little bit benefit of my experience. You've read
Yes.
my LinkedIn. You know what I
Mhm.
do or what I have done.
Yeah.
Um, you've already probably figured out that the bulk of philanthropic funds do come from individuals, not from foundations or corporations, or certainly not government. That's yeah. So let me kind of lead you in a slightly different direction. Instead of executing events that are intended primarily to generate revenue, think about
Mhm.
this. Think about executing events that are simply designed to bring awareness to what you do,
Mhm.
so that when you when you approach investors, then it's what I call donors. You're approaching them on the basis of their interest at a specific time. In other words, it ceases to be a transaction; it becomes a relationship. Now, um, who do you? How many board members do you have on your
We have,
C3?
yeah, six currently.
Okay. Now, are these what are these what we call family, fool, and friends, or are they people that you've accumulated over time?
So it's a mix of both. So one of the board members is one of the teachers we have at the music school, but she's
Mm-hmm.
just extremely passionate about the cause. She's constantly bringing in new people,
Mm-hmm.
new weird, quirky, fun. Just she's so good at networking. She's incredible. She'll go out anywhere and talk to everyone about everything. She is for everything. She's witty, she's smart, and it's she's part of the team. She's part of the family. A few others are at other events around that we've been to that we've collaborated with. Paskey's Foundation, we met a few people. Success with Purpose is another group we've worked with where they've awarded us a grant, and we've managed to acquire a few people passionate for the mission and join the board through there.
Okay.
Um, yes,
Well, let me suggest to
very
you.
mixed.
I want you to be thinking about this.
Mm.
You know where you are. You know your location. You know what you're trying to do, trying to accomplish. I want you to think about, and you don't have to answer this now, but I want you to be
Yeah.
thinking about what are the 5 or 6 natural constituencies of people from which you could draw support, and just kind of name them. And once you know who they are, what your board needs to consist of is at least one individual from each of those constituencies. Okay. They could be geographic, they could be vocational, a lot of different things. That's how you create your first board, is making sure that you're represented. You also will need some skills, someone with some marketing skills, someone with some finance skills, these kinds of things. Let me caution you, I would bankers are not a good choice. Okay. And because banks don't give money anymore, they used to, but not anymore. Okay. And then only one financial type or accountant and only one legal type, because those people are only trained in the use of one word, Bryce, the word no. All right. So they tend to be very constrictive and very cautious, too cautious. And you may need that kind of support at some point, but you don't want too many of those people because they will favor it. And then with the board's role, only three things they should be doing. Number one, provide you with the right governance structure so you can execute this thing. Number one. Number two, they need to be your number one fans. We really believe in what Bryce is doing, and let me share with this and show you. And they share it with all their friends and connections. And then lastly, it's their job to provide you or provide the organization with enough funds to execute the mission. And therein comes the fundraising piece. Now, there are different revenue streams that you can use, but their job really is to bring people into your circle that are willing to put down commensurate gifts every year. And the way you would do that is, I presume, but you don't have to answer, that each board member makes a personal gift every year. If they don't, they need to be. And then the second piece is it needs to be commensurate with their ability, because not everyone has the same financial ability. And then when you enlist new board members, whenever you ask someone, hey, Larry, would you consider doing this? One of the things you need to find out from me is, well, and what's the official name of the group again? What's the official name of your
Arts
nonprofit?
for All.
Odds for All. Okay. So Larry, you know,
Arts for All.
Would Arts for All be in your top three philanthropies? And I would say yes or no. Okay. It needs to be in the top three. I mean, number one might be here. It might be number one for all I know. But the point is, if it's below that, or I'm on too many other boards, I don't care if you've got what, Crosby, Stills, and Nash on there, or some national person on there, it will be to no avail, because the name alone will not generate support. It has to be that connection. So that's what I would suggest you do, so that you look at your board. Oh, what's the statutory limit on your board? Do you have one? Do you have a maximum that you can enlist with your bylaws?
We do not have one yet, no.
All right. Well,
With the bylaws right now,
I would suggest that you look at between 9 and 11 people. And the reason I'm giving you an odd number is because you avoid ties that way, and you don't get gridlocked. There's a nine, a group. That's what I would do. And then one thing you can do, and this is interesting, as you begin to identify potential donors, and I call them investors, they're giving for something that's their own personal reason to do so, not necessarily your organization. It may have something to do with your organization, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for the overlap. But don't make the mistake of thinking it's about you, because it's generally not. It's about something that they want to see happen in their own life. And if you can identify what that is, oh, there's no limit. Here's something else. As you acquire donors, if you can give them an experience, and here's where you could excel. If you can give them some sort of experience that they cannot purchase, that's very important. They can't buy their way into this thing, or whatever it is you're offering them. Okay, not for sale, but I'm going to invite you. I'm going to allow you to be a part of this. They will literally throw money at you. I guarantee you. I've seen it happen too many times. All right. So that's why buying and selling is really a very inefficient and costly and bottom feeding kind of approach. What you do, maybe you invite people to a special performance that they can't buy into, and then you invite them You
Yeah.
tell them what you're doing. If they want to write you a check right then, so no, tonight it's just for you. Just no, thank you. And I know that's hard when people
Yeah.
holding it out at you, but no, believe me, trust me on this. You will
Yeah.
raise more money than you can possibly think if you do it that way. You're young enough and you're just getting started that you can do this. You see, and I've seen it happen many, many times. So I know you're probably going, yeah, really, but it works. It works. And then the
No,
key,
I'm totally with you.
are you with me on this? Okay.
Yes. No, absolutely. I've been reading the well, I've read the book a few times, The Cycle by Michael Kaiser. And it's just essentially unbeatable programming leads to a bigger family, more eyes on you, which leads to word of mouth marketing, generating more revenue, allowing you to scale your programming and completing that cycle. They
Mm-hmm.
talk a lot about how providing an experience, like I was saying, to donors where it's, specifically to them that they cannot buy into. They delve a lot into that. Um, just providing like a perception of value, something that you are going to receive here that you're not going to receive anywhere else, whatever it is.
And it's something that really hits them in their sweet spot, whatever that might be.
Mhm.
Um, well, one thing that I will compliment you on right away, and that is you don't seem to have that. I'm not sure what name to put on this, but a lot of nonprofit people tend to think it's all about them and their wonderful mission. And I haven't picked that up with you. And believe me, that's good because it's not all about
Yeah.
you or your mission.
Yeah.
You're sort of people give not to you, but through you, you see, to what they want to see
Yeah.
happen. So you're doing pretty well with that.
Mhm.
Um, so 3 years,
Well, thank you.
three
Yes, 3
years.
years. Yeah, and we've been increasing every year. Of course, 2022 we started October, so that was just getting groundwork going. Raised enough funds for one student in 2022. For the packages that we provide through the nonprofit, we provide 20 lesson sponsorships to the families. Contributes from the music school as well as our donors. And then the families pay a small portion to enter the program. It's like a few bucks per lesson or something relatively small just to encourage attendance. And you say, hey, you're entering the program. Also allows us to scale slightly more funds when to raise
You know,
more stuff for
I like
kids.
I like what you just said about requiring some sort of financial participation from the students' families
Yeah.
because they need to have a stake in it, even if it's a very
Yeah.
small one.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Just a little something. It's like, hey, you want to be in the program, everything's, good to go. Just we do have to pay our instructors if they don't show up for the lesson or they just bail out. So, just so, to really get that in their mind, because I mean, some families, of course, it's like, oh, we're not paying anything for this. If we don't show up for a lesson, then
that's
there goes
right.
eating.
They don't have any, as we would say, skin in the game. You
Yes.
see,
Mhm.
even if it's some, well, now I like the fact that your board members are all contributing.
Mhm.
And the key is that they have what are known as commensurate gifts, because not everyone has the same ability. And if you can achieve that, we could talk about how you would do that some other time. But then you have a group that's not just responsible to you; they're responsible to each other. You see what I'm
Mhm.
saying with that? And if they
Yeah.
become responsible to each other, then first of all, they will stay together as a group, and they'll be a lot more effective for you. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Oh, it's a team. Any team you have anywhere, if there's one bad apple, it'll spoil the rest of the bunch. You need everyone on the same page, passionate. You don't want anyone to bring the rest of the group down.
You know, Bryce, you're great. Okay, because I try to tell people twice your age what you
Yeah.
just told me, and I get all kinds of obfuscations and explanations and rationalizations why that it's not doesn't have to be that way, and like you're just kind of like saying it. You're just out there. I like that. You're just out there. You just okay. I am who I am. This is what it is.
Yeah.
That by the way will really encourage serious support if you're always that way with other people. Now, where do you want this thing to go? You just got 3 years. But
Mhm.
are you looking to make this your full-time gig? You still want to work at the music store? What do you want to do?
Yeah, so I love working at the music school because, it's I'm I don't mean to float my own boat, but I'm good at it and it's fun. And I've learned so much from the job. It's what, originally got me going with everything because I didn't have any skills whatsoever, nothing. It was fresh job. I learned how to sell. I learned how to communicate with people properly because, when I was growing up, in my anxiety and depression years, like I was terrified of talking. I was just very scared, just nervous, just in a casual conversation, one on one in private, even though, it's like I just don't know what to say. I don't know how to communicate. So I've learned a lot about communicating. I've learned a lot about managing people and musicians. They're a different breed of people,
You
especially
think
enough.
so? You really
Yes.
think so?
Yeah,
I'm being
absolutely.
sarcastic, Bryce. I know they are.
Yes. And so you can't what the very first lesson I learned at this job when I first became acting manager after a week of running the store, because small business, that's how it works. But um, one of the teachers who I haven't met yet came in 22 minutes late to a 30-minute lesson.
Oh,
And I
that's smart. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, she didn't warn me or anything. She just showed up 22 minutes late. She's like, "Where's my student?" I was like, "Oh, I threw your student with another teacher. You weren't answering your phone." And she's like, "Yeah, there was traffic." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I get it, traffic every now and then. Just next week, let's just account for traffic." And she pauses and she goes to me. She's like, "What?" I'm like, what? Next time account for traffic, it's like I get it. You're driving from San Diego. The freeway's usually packed around this time. We know this now. Let's work on it next week. And she goes, "You don't talk to me that way." And I was like, "I know, I'm not trying to attack you. I'm just trying to be nice." And she like threw a full fit, stormed out, called Dan, didn't teach the rest of her lessons, and just telling Dan like, "Hey, you know who is this guy talking to me this way?" And I'm like I don't know how to navigate that situation any better. I gave it my all. I wasn't trying to attack. I was trying to say, "Hey, uh, these people are paying money to come and take a lesson, and you're showing up 22 minutes late. That's not acceptable." And then the Dan
No,
sits
it's
down and
not.
he sits down and he tells me, he's like, "You cannot let them know when they're wrong. They will blow up on you every time." And I'm like, I just it changed my whole outlook of life, because I'm didn't really know much about people and their psychology and how to navigate certain situations. So I just figured, tell them what I would want to hear, say it's okay. Let's just work on it next week. That's sort of the whole point. But it's like, no, you just got to say, good job for making it in. You're doing great. And I'm like, wow, this. I'm in for a lot with this job.
Well, that what you just told me is the difference
Yeah.
between East Coast and West Coast. All right.
Yeah.
Now I'm back from the East Coast. You know, if someone would come in like that 22 minutes late, um, the instructor, the manager said, "Well, you used to have a job here. You don't anymore." I
Yeah.
mean, and like they, it's like, well, you didn't call, you didn't give me any heads up. You
Yeah.
know, so that's the difference between
I
East
agree with
Coast and
that.
West Coast.
Yeah,
So
no, like if I came 22 minutes late, I'm so sorry, that will never happen again. I will take every, precaution to make sure I'm early every time. But like, no, just confrontation is not something most of them are good with dealing with. So, I mean, another thing that, when you're running a small business and you have private contractors or employees, we do it, private contractors sell by the lesson. Um, where was I going with this? It was good. Sorry, I just totally had a brain fart. But when you're dealing with private contractors or employees, you gotta ease into them. I'm sorry, we're gonna have to keep going. I totally lost it.
you'll get it. You'll get it.
Yeah, no, it'll come
Um,
back.
but so then you're going to stay with the Music Academy, which is for
Yeah,
profit, but you still want to build your nonprofit at the
yeah,
same
no,
time.
absolutely.
Um, and you think the two kind of work together in some ways, the way you projected it to me.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So
So the goal with the nonprofit and building that up is, using these local music schools, finding the good ones, finding good people, and, spreading out into different areas. That allows us to target different areas, see if they'll come join the nonprofit side of the team and spread the word there. And then we fund students through their school so they have more business. Their teachers could eat, their communities a little bit more tied together there, and just reaching out, Dana Point's just the tip of the iceberg. Ideally, we want to connect all these small businesses, local music schools, and have areas all over California, then branch out in other states. Um, and yeah, just connecting everyone. This is Arts for All sponsored school. You could apply for their lesson program through this school. And of course, monitor all the schools and audit them and make sure our programs are, uh, our unbeatable program is, it's what they have, because I don't want
So
to,
what
sorry.
what's your prime age that you're targeting for students? What's your age range?
It's usually around 4 to 17. I believe the youngest Arts for All students 5, but yeah, it's kids with disabilities or families without the financial means for music lessons because
Or
there's a lot
both?
of, yeah, exactly, or both. But yeah, there's a lot of just physical and mental therapy when it comes to playing music. It's
There
something
is.
that either
There
off the
is.
phone or whatever it is. Strengthen my hands. My hands have only been going up since I've been playing piano, building that mind muscle connection. It was
Hmm.
something I never thought was possible, and then I did it, which sort of led, a sense of ignorance into everything that I do, in the most positive way, where it's like, I absolutely will tackle this on no matter what. My mind shift completely changed from instead of saying can't into saying I'll figure it out.
Well, I think it's quite remarkable that you've taken something that was not something you sought, but it came upon you. You dealt with it in a very sort of detached way, really. You didn't take it to heart. It wasn't personal to you, but you were determined to work around it. You're going to let move forward. And you did not succumb to victimhood. You did not see yourself that way. You still don't see yourself that way. And as a result, you've pretty much overcome any real disability because the disabilities, starts usually right here, you know, and your attitude is what it is. So, and you just continue to move forward. This is remarkable, Bryce. You ought to be just you're smiling very innocently and nice, and that's good. Just don't ever get the big head, Bryce. Or as
Yeah.
they say, don't start believing your own press releases. Okay, or that could be difficult. I'm sure your parents are very proud of you, um, and because you've taken a very healthy perspective with all of this. And, well, you've probably known of about great musicians of the past that have often had severe disabilities to overcome.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and of course, one of the favorite ones that everyone talks about is Beethoven going totally stone deaf later in his
Yeah.
life. Um, and how the lengths that he went to feel the vibrations or whatever it is he had to do to compose perhaps his greatest music when he was stone deaf.
Yeah.
Um, and that's wow, like painting when you're blind. It's the same sort of thing. Um, it
Absolutely.
was there anything you'd like to add to our conversation today? We'll probably do this again, by the way.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. Yeah, I'll definitely keep up to date. Add to the conversation. Let's see. I'm sure there's so much I could say. Well, regarding the music school journey, the nonprofit, it's just one day at a time, have your vision, never give up. Always find ways to conquer it. You're gonna have to train your mind before anything else. If you're in an unhealthy place, you're not gonna get anything done. If there's ever cancer, I won't. It's not gonna happen. Having a team around you, surrounding yourself with good people is super important, like how we were talking about earlier. It's when there's one bad apple in the bunch, it spoils the rest of the group. And it's super true when we have one teacher here who's, not good, doesn't fit in socially with everyone else, and just feels negative. It definitely sets the mood for everyone else, and it makes things less fun. So just the hardest thing is people. That's what it's all about. It's seriously,
Oh, yes, yes. That's well said, Bryce. I want to thank you for doing this today. We've had a delightful conversation today with Bryce Hanson, who is remarkably wise for his very few years, and I want to say that. And he has taken what one consider would be a terrible disadvantage and has turned it into an actual advantage. And I want to thank him for being on today. Thank you, Bryce, very much.
Thank you, Larry. And once again, thank you for, the time to speak my story, delve in for the wonderful advice. Definitely need to find more ways. It's definitely the thing I'm taking out, more. I've heard it a few times now is like how you were saying, build an unbeatable experience for everyone. And, that'll just
Mm-hmm.
make them attached to you. Dan always calls it perception of value, which is something.
Perception of value. That's a
Mhm.
wise man. Maybe we have him on with you next time.
Yeah, that'd be
um,
fun.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And I thank you again, Bryce, for being with us today.
Yeah. Thanks, Larry. Thanks, everyone.